it's obvious that China is now, the number one risk as we think of the stability of the region.
This is Fiery Cross Island. It's a little more than 1 square mile in size, and it's home to a Chinese military base. There's a 10,000-foot airstrip, an advanced radar station, a missile defense system, and about 200 troops. But the strangest thing about Fiery Cross Island is that 2 years ago, it didn't exist. And neither did the 6 other Chinese military bases that have been built on man-made islands in the South China Sea. If you look at this satellite image from 2014, you can see huge Chinese ships collecting around remote reefs in the Spratly Islands, an archipelago in the South China Sea. In this image, these ships are rapidly pumping sand and rock up onto the reef. They're building islands. And less than a year later, the Chinese had seaports, air bases, and buildings on their new island, and the world had taken...
This is Chinese Navy.
Down below, we can see a pair of Chinese Navy ships. Our pilots are nervous. They want to turn away. We're a civilian aircraft flying over international waters, and yet we're being repeatedly threatened.
Accusing the United States of seeking maritime dominance in the name of freedom of navigation. The criticism comes after an incident this weekend as a U.S. Navy destroyer sailed within 12 nautical miles of a disputed island in the South China Sea.
New report this morning saying that China used tiny chips in a hack that infiltrated U.S. businesses, including Amazon and Apple.
Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has warned the EU against working with Chinese network firms Huawei and ZTE, accusing them of spying on users and stealing personal data.
Senior executive of Chinese telecoms giant Huawei has been arrested in Canada, and she faces extradition to the United States.
How worried are you about Chinese espionage in the United States?
Well, I think from a perspective of threat against the United States national security and our interests, China is number one by far, and I think espionage is a part of that. But from a perspective of countering the intelligence threat of foreign nations, China is our biggest concern across a wide range of issues. Espionage is one of our larger ones.
Wuhan, China, a sprawling city of 11 million people. It was here that coronavirus, our invisible, brutal enemy, was born, festering at least a month and a half before the world was told. Just 2 weeks ago, the head of emergency at Wuhan Central Hospital, Dr. Ai Fen, also went public, saying authorities had stopped her and her colleagues from warning the world.
More people have now died of the virus in Italy than in China. Another 427 deaths have been recorded in Italy in the past 24 hours, taking the death toll to around 3,400. Meanwhile, in Iran, health officials say the virus is now killing 1 person every 10 minutes there. And another 154 people have died in the United States as the country battles more than 10,000 cases.
The Foreign Ministry is taking issue with the World Health Organization for how it refers to Taiwan in its virus reports. Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Joanne Oh said that over the past few weeks, the WHO has switched from Taiwan, China to Taipei Municipality to Taipei.
One of the most dangerous and costly decisions from the WHO was its disastrous decision to oppose travel restrictions from China and other nations. They were very much opposed to what we did. Fortunately, I was not convinced and suspended travel from China, saving untold numbers of lives. Thousands and thousands of people would have died.
The CCP virus has spread globally. The Chinese regime's goal is to reverse their negative image by exporting medical supplies to Spain and other countries suffering from the pandemic. However, these medical supplies sold have been found defective. These countries have now requested to return these low-quality products.
And as substandard supplies, not welcome. The latest recipient is India. Sources in the Health Ministry have confirmed a newspaper report that India has received personal protection equipment, PPE, from China which fails quality tests.
In the meanwhile, here on 5 Live, I want to quickly shift focus to something that the world is looking at very, very angrily. The United Kingdom has now become the 7th country in the world to reject China's COVID-19 testing kits. Imagine that. After purchasing millions of these testing kits, the UK says that 3.5 million of these bought from China are unreliable and dangerous to use. Take a look.
Meanwhile, the list of complaints against faulty medical kits from China is growing. Scientists and health authorities in Spain, the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Turkey, and the United Kingdom received faulty tests. These governments reportedly paid millions of dollars to Chinese companies to procure them. Georgia wanted to buy rapid coronavirus tests from China. They have now suspended their agreement. The Netherlands wants to return 600,000 face masks purchased from China. The N95 masks did not fit properly, and the filters didn't work. When the Dutch officials ordered a recall, Beijing did not apologize. Instead, China blamed the Netherlands. The Chinese Foreign Ministry said that Dutch government should read the instructions on the box.
From major ports to landmark buildings and large sections of Australia's farmlands, Chinese investors are buying at a rapid rate.
Our cover story tonight is about India's biggest financial institution, HDFC, not the bank, HDFC Limited, Housing Development Finance Corporation Limited. It's one of the biggest lenders in India. It is also a holding company. HDFC Limited has shares in other group firms like HDFC Bank, HDFC Mutual Fund, HDFC Life Insurance. Why is it in news? Because of China. China's central bank has invested in HDFC. A major chunk of India's startup sector is funded by the Chinese. Most of these investments happened 6 years ago. According to a study, 18 out of 30 unicorns in India are funded by Chinese interests. By 2018, Chinese investors had pumped in $5.6 billion into Indian startups. This includes some of the modern-day giants like Ola. In 2014, it received undisclosed funding from Tencent and Didi Xuxing.